They forced me to my knees right on the homecoming field and told me to stop pretending to be brave. Aunt Lorna just smirked because the transfer papers for my house had been ready for 2 months. But tonight, the sirens echoing through the stadium tunnel would wipe that smile clean off. The crowd's roar drowned out my heartbeat as my parents dragged me through the alumni section, their fingers digging into my arms like they owned me. 62 days of forged signatures, backdated notarizations, and family lies all leading to this moment under the Friday night lights. My name is Evelyn Hart Eve to anyone who doesn't want their supply chains audited into oblivion, and I've spent the last decade making sure bullets, boots, and body armor reach the right coordinates at the right time. But sitting in my childhood home in Maple Glen, Ohio, during homecoming week, I realized my family had been running their own logistics operation. Except instead of military supplies, they were moving my signature across documents I'd never seen. The town blazed with maroon and gold. Lakehurst University alumni stumbled between tailgate parties, their laughter sharp as breaking glass. I nursed black coffee at our oak dining table while Mom Colleen Hart, retired elementary principal, permanent judge of my life choices, sliced apples with surgical precision. "You're too thin," she said, not looking up. All that time away. For what some government job that keeps you gone months at a time, Dad flipped his newspaper. Martin Hart, former insurance adjuster, current expert on everything I did wrong. "Your Aunt Lorna's coming for dinner. She has some family business to discuss." Family business. In this house, that meant a trial where I was always guilty. "I'm only here for the week," I said. Then back to Sable Ridge. That awful defense place. Mom's knife hit the cutting board harder. You could have taught. Could have stayed close. The Birchwater house saved me from responding. My cabin on the lake, bought with combat pay and 16-hour shifts in sandstorms. 23 acres of pine and silence. The deed in my name alone, no Hart family strings attached? Or so I thought. My phone buzzed. An email from Hart Family Trust Administration, an entity that didn't exist until, apparently, today. "Dear beneficiary, please update your asset authorization forms for the upcoming tax season. Immediate action required for estate planning purposes." I deleted it, then pulled it from trash and screenshotted it instead. 10 years of supply chain management taught me to document everything, especially things that smelled like ambush. Aunt Lorna arrived at 6:15 p.m. Designer purse first, smile second. She'd married well twice, divorced better both times, and now managed what she called family investments from her McMansion across town. She kissed my cheek. Her perfume cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Eve, darling, you look tired. Just got back from a deployment rotation." "Deployment?" She said it like I'd admitted to eating gas station sushi. "Well, we need to discuss your property situation." "What situation?" Dad cleared his throat. "You're never here. The Birchwater place sits empty. It's a liability." "It's maintained. I have a service." "Services cost money." Mom interrupted. "Money you could be saving. If you were smart, you'd let the family trust manage it." The family trust. The fictional entity from this afternoon's email. "The house is fine," I said. Lorna pulled out her phone, swiped to a document. "We've prepared some paperwork. Just a formality. Temporary management transfer while you're away so much. For insurance purposes." "No." The word hung there like a smoke grenade. Dad's face darkened. "You always were stubborn, just like when you enlisted against our wishes." I commissioned. "There's a difference." "The difference is irrelevant," Mom snapped. "You abandoned this family for some fantasy of playing soldier." Playing soldier. I'd coordinated ammunition shipments through Kandahar, managed fuel convoys through roads that IEDs turned into graveyards. But here, at this table, I was still the rebellious daughter who wouldn't follow the script. Lorna's smile never wavered. "Just think about it, dear. The homecoming game is tomorrow night. Everyone will be there. We can discuss it more then. She left the papers on the table. Bold letters, power of attorney, property transfer authorization. My signature line blank but somehow expectant, like it knew something I didn't. After they migrated to the living room for wine and judgment, I studied the documents under kitchen fluorescence. The notary seal was dated 2 months in the future. The witness signature looked like my name written by someone who'd only seen it once. These weren't legal documents. They were practice runs. Outside. The marching band rehearsed in the distance, drums echoing across suburban streets. Homecoming in Maple Glen meant reunion, tradition, coming back to where you started. But sometimes, I thought, photographing every page of Lorna's papers, sometimes home is where they're planning to rob you blind. I texted my old battle buddy now, working cybersecurity. Need a favor. Someone's trying to steal my house. His response came in 30 seconds. Send me everything, and Eve document every conversation from now on. The drums got louder, closer, like an army approaching. Tomorrow night, they wanted me at that game, the whole town watching, the perfect audience for whatever performance they'd planned. I poured out my coffee, now cold as the October wind rattling our windows. In logistics, we called it staging positioning assets before an operation. My family had been staging for months. The Lakehurst Stadium blazed under Friday night lights. 10,000 people packed into bleachers while the homecoming court paraded in convertibles. I'd agreed to meet my parents at the alumni section neutral ground, they'd said. Public enough to keep things civil. They were wrong about that. I spotted them near the 50-yard line, Mom in her vintage Lakehurst cardigan, Dad wearing his class reunion pin like a medal. Aunt Lorna stood between them, designer coat catching stadium lights, that same smile from dinner carved into her face. Eve, Mom waved like we were some happy family in a commercial. Over here. The crowd pressed close former teachers, Dad's golf buddies, Mom's book club army, everyone who'd watched me grow up, leave, and refuse to come back. The band launched into the fight song. Under the brass and drums, Dad grabbed my wrist. Sign the papers. Excuse me. The house transfer. His grip tightened. You're being selfish. We're trying to protect family assets. My assets, that I paid for. Mom flanked my other side, her voice sharp beneath her smile. You're making a scene. I haven't done anything. Exactly. Lorna stepped forward, pulling documents from her purse. You haven't done anything for this family in years. Always gone, always too important for us. The least you can do is let us manage that empty house while you play army. She pressed the papers against my chest. The notary seal caught the light still dated wrong, still fake, but getting better at pretending to be real. I said no. Dad's hand moved from my wrist to my elbow. Mom pressed from the other side, and suddenly they were pushing me down, right there in the bleachers, my knees hitting aluminum while hundreds cheered for something happening on the field. Sign it, Dad hissed. Stop pretending to be brave. You're not in Afghanistan anymore. The crowd roared. The band played louder. And somewhere in that wall of sound, a microphone turned on. Just sign the goddamn papers. Eve. Mom's voice boomed across the stadium. The PA system had picked up our confrontation. The band stopped mid-note. 10,000 faces turned toward Section D, row 15, where I knelt between my parents while my aunt held fraudulent documents over my head like evidence. Ungrateful child who thinks she's too good for her own family. The stadium screen, meant for instant replays, somehow caught us in its sweep. There I was, 30 feet tall, forced to my knees while my father's red face filled the frame shouting about what we're owed and years of disappointment. Security started moving through the crowd. Alumni whispered. Phones appeared, and Maple Glen's favorite social media accounts would feast for weeks. But in that moment of pure humiliation, something else happened. A hand tapped my shoulder, not aggressive, almost gentle. A woman in a charcoal suit, clearly not here for the game. Evelyn Hart. I nodded, still on my knees, my parents' hands still pressing down. Rebecca Torres, Midland County Financial Crimes Task Force. She held out a business card where everyone could see it. I think you should stand up now. My parents' grips loosened. Lorna's smile flickered like a bad connection. This is a family matter, Mom started. Ma'am, please step back. Torres helped me to my feet, then studied the papers Lorna still held. Interesting. May I? Lorna pulled them back. These are private documents. Documents being forced on someone in public view. Torres smiled, cold as February. That's actually my specialty. She handed me her card. On the back, handwritten, that notary seal is fraudulent. Call me, tonight. The security guards finally arrived, suggesting we take this somewhere private. The crowd buzzed. The band uncertainly started playing again. As we were escorted toward the exit, hundreds of phone cameras tracked our march of shame. At the gate, Torres stopped beside me while my family was directed to a security office. Your house on Birchwater, she said quietly. Someone filed paperwork on it 3 days ago. Temporary transfer of deed. The notary who stamped it, he doesn't exist, but the transfer might go through Monday if no one challenges it. How did you? We've been watching your aunt for 6 months. Different case, similar pattern. You weren't the first, Ms. Hart, but you could be the last. She walked away, leaving me standing under the stadium lights while my family was questioned by security. In the distance, the homecoming court was crowned. Glitter cannons exploded, and the crowd cheered for Lakehurst tradition. But all I heard was Torres's words. You weren't the first. Lorna had been doing this to others, and my own parents were helping her. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app I'd started at dinner, and found exactly what I needed. Mom discussing the family trust that didn't exist, Dad mentioning the falsified date, and Lorna laughing about how Eve never reads what she signs anyway. The stadium erupted in fireworks. Gold and maroon stars burst overhead while the band played victory songs. But down in the parking lot, watching my family get escorted to their cars by security, I felt something harder than victory. I felt ready. They wanted me to stop pretending to be brave. Fine. I'd stop pretending. Time to be real. Saturday morning, 6:45 a.m. I drove to Birchwater expecting peace. Instead, I found invasion. The smart lock on my front door blinked red. Access denied. My own door wouldn't recognize me. A yellow notice tagged to the frame. Property under maintenance review, Whitestone Family Holdings, LLC. The company name meant nothing. The violation of my space meant everything. I circled the cabin. Fresh footprints in the October mud. Size 11 boots. Probably men's. The backslider had new scratches around the lock. Someone had been inside. Recently. My phone buzzed. Rebecca Torres. Check the county recorder's website. Now. I sat on my own porch, locked out, and pulled up the site on my phone. There it was, a temporary transfer of interest filed Thursday at 4:30 p.m., barely 24 hours ago. The document showed my signature, except the Y in Evelyn swooped wrong and the H in Hart looked like a child's attempt at cursive. Whitestone Family Holdings, LLC was listed as temporary holder, pending review of owner capacity. The notarization came from Jefferson County, 3 hours away. The notary, Michael Stern. Commission number that probably matched someone real but definitely didn't match this transaction. I called Torres back. They filed it during the game. While you were being publicly humiliated. Good distraction. Your aunts used this playbook before. How many others? 4 elderly residents in Riverside Heights. 2 divorced women going through custody battles. 1 veteran with PTSD they claimed was mentally unfit. Your aunt finds people in transition. Vulnerable moments. Then she strikes. I stood, tested my door again. Still locked out. The smart lock, they changed the codes. Document everything. Photos, videos, timestamps. We're building a RICO case, but we need proof of pattern. RICO. Racketeering. My family wasn't just lying, they were organized crime in suburban costume. I walked back to my car, grabbed the toolkit I kept in the trunk. Military habit always have basic supplies. Then I called my cybersecurity friend, Marcus. Someone changed my smart lock remotely, I said. Give me 10 minutes? 9 minutes later, my phone dinged. Check your app now. The lock showed green. I was back in my own house. Inside was worse than I'd imagined. Nothing stolen, but everything touched. Photo albums opened to pictures of me in uniform, as if someone was building a case that I was gone too much. Financial documents moved from my filing cabinet to the kitchen table. Certain lines highlighted mortgage payments, property tax, maintenance costs. They'd been calculating what my house was worth to them. On my laptop, left conspicuously open, a browser tab showed a Facebook post from Concerned Citizens of Maple Glen, posted at 11:23 p.m. last night. Sad to see Eve Hart selling her family cabin due to financial troubles from her military service. PTSD is real. Debt is real. Family is trying to help, but she's refusing. Pray for our veterans. 300 reactions. 42 shares. Comments from people I'd known my whole life, offering prayers and judgment in equal measure. The post came from a burner account, but the IP trace Marcus sent me led to a familiar location, the Brass Monkey, Lorna's favorite wine bar. I screenshot everything, then started my own documentation. Video of the violated locks, the boot prints, the staged documents. I found something else, a folder on my desk I'd never seen before, containing printed emails from Evelyn Hart, Military Ugmail, COM, an account I didn't own discussing selling the family property due to deployment stress with someone at Black Dog Title and Escrow. The dates on the emails started 2 months ago. They'd been planning this since August, creating a paper trail of a breakdown I wasn't having, preparing for a sale I hadn't authorized. My phone rang. Mom. Eve, we're concerned about your behavior last night. Very erratic, very unstable. Maybe you should talk to someone. Like who, Aunt Lorna's lawyer? Don't be dramatic. We're having a family meeting tomorrow at the homecoming gala. You need to be there. To apologize. Apologize for embarrassing us, for your paranoia. Lorna's been nothing but helpful, and you... I hung up. Another call immediately. Dad this time. I let it go to voicemail. Evelyn, your mother's upset. You're upset. Everyone's upset. Just sign the papers and this all goes away. The house stays in the family. You get your share eventually. Stop making this harder than it needs to be. And stop spreading lies about your aunt. She could sue you for defamation after that stadium scene. Sue me. While they stole my house, I pulled up the Lakehurst University website. The homecoming gala, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., black tie fundraiser for the new athletic complex. $1,000 a plate. My family had a reserved table, the Hart Family Foundation. Supporters since 1998. Perfect. Public venue. Witnesses. Security cameras. I texted Torres. They want me at the gala tomorrow night, probably to sign papers. Good. We'll be there. Bring everything you've documented. I looked around my violated house, at the false narrative they'd constructed, at the crime scene they'd made of my life. I'd run supply chains through active combat zones. I'd kept soldiers alive with perfectly timed logistics under mortar fire. My family thought they could outmaneuver me with forged signatures and Facebook posts. Tomorrow night, at their precious gala, I'd show them what real strategic planning looked like. Sunday afternoon, 2:30 p.m., the law office of Iris Cole sat above a coffee shop in downtown Maple Glen, close enough to smell espresso through old windows. Torres had recommended her best fraud attorney in 3 counties, and she loves destroying family scams. Iris looked like she ate corporate lawyers for breakfast. Silver hair in a power bun, suit that cost more than my monthly salary, and eyes that had seen every lie money could buy. Military, she asked, reviewing my documents. 10 years, supply chain logistics. Good. You understand evidence chains? She spread the papers across her conference table like battle maps. Your aunt's getting sloppy. This notary stamped Michael Stern's real, but he was in Florida that day. I pulled his credit card records perfectly legal in fraud cases. Detective Noah Bell from Torres's task force leaned against the window, young guy with old eyes. We've been tracking Black Dog Title and Escrow for 18 months. Shell company registered in Delaware. Leads back to a consortium your aunt runs with 2 disbarred lawyers. The Facebook posts are defamation, Iris added. But that's secondary. The main issue is this fraudulent transfer. We need them to complete the crime. Complete it. Right now, it's attempted fraud. Serious. But your aunt's lawyers could argue mistake, confusion, family miscommunication. But if she executes the final transfer, accepts money for the property, distributes it through her shell companies. Iris smiled like a shark. That's wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, and about 6 other federal charges. Noah pulled out a tablet, showed me a document. This is what they'll present tonight. Final transfer papers moving your property to Whitestone, then immediately to a buyer in Columbus. Cash deal. Closes Monday morning at 8 a.m. If you sign tonight. How do you know this? Your aunt uses the same notary service for all her deals. We got a warrant Friday night. They've been very cooperative since they learned about the fraud. I studied the buyer information. Another LLC. Probably another shell. So I go to the gala. Pretend to give in. Not pretend. Iris corrected. You'll sign real documents. Just not the ones they think. She produced a different stack. These look identical to theirs, but they transfer the property to a trust your trust, created an hour ago. The signature pages are formatted exactly like their forgeries, down to the font. When they present their papers, you'll sign these instead. Won't they notice? Eventually. But by then, they'll have already filed their versions. One problem, their documents are backdated to August. Yours are dated today. Guess which ones are legally valid? The plan was surgical. I'd wear a wire. Noah's team would monitor from the hotel's security office. When Lorna produced her notary, the fake Michael Stern, who was actually someone named Dennis Walsh, small-time forger from Youngstown, they'd have conspiracy in real time. The key, Iris said, is getting them to explicitly state the plan. We need verbal confirmation that they know the documents are fraudulent. I thought about Lorna's smile, my parents' righteousness. They're arrogant. They'll brag. Good. One more thing. Noah handed me a flash drive. Plug this into any computer they use for the transaction. It'll mirror their emails in real time. Capture everything they've deleted. 3 hours until the gala. I drove home to change. Found a black cocktail dress I'd worn to a military ball years ago. Still fit. The wire tucked under the bodice. Invisible unless someone was looking. Marcus texted, "Check your email." He'd sent me everything the fake email accounts in my name. IP addresses linking to Lorna's devices. Even deleted messages between my parents and Lorna planning the stadium confrontation. One message from Mom stood out. She won't sign willingly. We need leverage. Make her look unstable. My own mother, strategizing my humiliation. Another text, this one from Torres. We have 3 agents inside as catering staff. 2 more as valets. Don't look for us. I pulled up to the Lakehurst Grand Hotel at 6:50 p.m. Valet took my keys, definitely a cop. His eyes too alert for minimum wage. The ballroom glowed gold, full of Maple Glen's finest pretending their money made them important. The Hart family table sat near the stage. Mom in emerald green. Dad in the tuxedo he'd worn to every formal event since 1995. And Lorna, crimson dress like fresh blood, papers already waiting beside the champagne. She stood when she saw me, arms wide. Eve, so glad you came to your senses. Her hug was perfume and possession. I felt her check for a wire, her hands subtle but searching. She found nothing Iris had been right about the bodice placement. Let's get this done, I said, sitting down. After dinner, Dad insisted. We're civilized people, who forged signatures and stole houses. The ballroom filled with alumni and donors. The president gave speeches about tradition and giving back. The band played jazz standards. And at our table, my family performed their last act of normal before they tried to rob me. At 8:15 p.m., Lorna made her move. Now then, she said, pulling out her documents. Let's make this official. Monday morning, 7 a.m. The call came while I was reviewing the wire recordings from last night's gala. Ms. Hart. A man's voice, trying to sound official. This is James from Sable Ridge HR. We've received concerning documentation about your mental state. Your family has submitted a voluntary resignation on your behalf. I didn't resign. The signature is forged, like everything else they've sent you. I'll have my lawyer contact you within the hour. I hung up. They'd escalated. If I lost my job, I'd lose the security clearance that made me valuable to defense contractors. Without income verification, fighting the house theft would get harder. My phone buzzed immediately. Mom. Eve, we're worried about you. That scene at the gala last night, accusing Lorna of fraud. You need help. I recorded everything. Silence. Then Dad's voice they'd put me on speaker. Recording your family without consent. That's illegal. We could have you arrested. Ohio is a one-party consent state. Dad. I learned that in my fake resignation letter you forged my signature on... Another pause. Lorna's voice came through, sweet as antifreeze. Evelyn, darling, stop pretending to be brave. You're falling apart. Everyone saw it at homecoming. Everyone's talking about it. Just sign the real papers and we'll get you help. The real papers. You mean the ones backdated to August or the ones with the fake notary seal? You're paranoid, delusional. We have documents from your colleagues expressing concern. You mean the emails from accounts I don't own. Click. They hung up. I called Iris immediately. They're trying to get me fired. Already handled. I spoke with Sable Ridge's legal department an hour ago. Sent them proof of the forgery. Your job's safe. How did you... Your aunt pulled this with victim number 3. Same playbook. I anticipated it. My laptop pinged. New email from Marcus. Check this out. He'd cracked into Lorna's cloud storage. Hundreds of documents. Property deeds, bank statements, trust paperwork. Not just my house, 12 other properties across Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. All stolen the same way. Find someone vulnerable. Create false documentation of instability. Force a signing. Take the property. One folder was labeled E. Heart Final Phase. Inside a psychiatric evaluation form, pre-filled with claims of PTSD-induced paranoia. Dated tomorrow. The psychiatrist's name was Dr. Richard Morse, who'd lost his license in 2018 for insurance fraud. But his signature still looked official if you didn't check. A petition for conservatorship, claiming I was mentally incompetent. My parents listed as petitioners. A purchase agreement for Birchwater. The buyer, a development company planning to raise my cabin for lakefront condos. Sale price $800,000. My share after Lorna's management fees, $40,000. And an email thread between Lorna and Mom from 3 months ago. She's always been difficult. Military made her worse. This is for her own good. I know it's hard, Colleen, but once we have control, we can help her properly. The house is worth more than she realizes. The development potential alone. We're protecting family assets. Eve would waste it all on her pride. My own mother. 3 months of planning to declare me insane. I forwarded everything to Torres and Iris, then called Noah Bell. We need to move tonight, he said. If they file that conservatorship petition, even if it's fraudulent, you'll be tied up in court for months. The gala's over. What's our venue? Your aunt's having a family emergency meeting tonight at 9 p.m., your parents' house. She thinks you'll crack under pressure, come begging to sign rather than lose everything. How do you know? We have a warrant for her phone. She's been texting your parents all morning. Direct quotes, she's breaking. Tonight, we finish this. I looked around my cabin, my sanctuary they'd tried to steal. Outside, October wind stripped the last leaves from maple trees. The lake reflected gray sky, cold and indifferent. I pulled out my service notebook, the one I'd carried through Kandahar. Inside, pressed between supply manifests and convoy routes, was a photo from basic training. Young Eve, fierce and unbreakable, before family became the enemy. That woman wouldn't pretend to be brave. She'd been forged in desert heat and midnight rockets, in the space between orders and execution where courage lived. I wrote in the notebook, "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's refusing to let fear sign your name." My phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Hart. "This is Dennis Walsh. Your aunt hired me to be Michael Stern tonight. I'm supposed to notarize papers at 9. The FBI just showed up at my door. I'm cooperating fully. They want me to wear a wire." The forger was flipping. The con was collapsing. But Lorna didn't know yet. "Will you do it?" I asked. "Lady, your aunt promised me $5,000 to pretend to be someone else. The feds promised me immunity to tell the truth. Which would you pick? Tonight, 9 p.m. The same dining room table where this started. The same people who raised me, now ready to declare me insane for money." I texted Iris. "I want to be there when they're arrested." "Absolutely not. Too dangerous." I texted back. "I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my location." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Don't interfere with the arrest. And Eve, don't gloat. It's unbecoming." Gloat. No, I wouldn't gloat. But I'd stop pretending. Stop pretending they were family. Stop pretending love meant accepting abuse. Stop pretending to be brave when I'd been brave all along. Tonight, under the same roof where they'd plotted my destruction, their empire of lies would fall. And I'd watch every second of it. 8:45 p.m. I parked 2 houses down from my parents' home, watched unmarked vans position themselves along the street. Inside the house, warm light spilled from dining room windows. The same light that used to mean safety when I was 7, coming home from school. I walked up the familiar driveway. No invitation needed, they'd summoned me through threats all day. The door was unlocked. Arrogant. So certain I'd come crawling back. The dining room scene was perfectly staged. Mom had used the good china. Dad wore his lucky golf club tie. Lorna sat at the head like a queen, red nails tapping against a leather portfolio. Dennis Walsh, dressed as a notary, fidgeted beside her. His wire was probably better hidden than mine. Eve, Mom didn't stand. Finally ready to be reasonable. I've always been reasonable. "Reasonable people don't record their families," Dad said. "Reasonable people don't make scenes at homecoming games." I sat down across from Lorna. She pushed the portfolio toward me, new documents, thicker than before. "Last chance," she said. "Sign these, transfer the property cleanly, and we all move forward. Or tomorrow morning, we file papers declaring you mentally incompetent. Your choice." "Show me the papers." She smiled that shark smile, opened the portfolio. Inside, beneath the transfer documents, I saw the psychiatric evaluation, the conservatorship petition, letters from concerned citizens about my erratic behavior. "Dr. Morse already agreed to testify," Lorna said. "Poor Eve, PTSD from her service, unable to manage her affairs. We're trying to help, but she's paranoid, delusional, attacking her own family. Dr. Morse lost his license 4 years ago." Her smile flickered. "He's still a doctor. His evaluation carries weight. Does it carry more weight than this?" I pulled out my phone, played the recording from the gala the notary's fake, but she'll never check. "She trusts family." Lorna's face went pale. Mom stood up. "You recorded us every word. Also, Dennis." I looked at the fake notary. "Your real name's already in FBI files. They know you're not Michael Stern." Dennis shifted, sweat beading on his forehead. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The wire you're wearing knows differently." Chaos. Dad lunged for my phone. Mom screamed about betrayal. Lorna grabbed the documents, started shoving them back in the portfolio. But her hands shook, papers scattering across the table. "Stop!" I didn't yell, didn't need to. "It's over. Nothing's over," Lorna snarled. "You're sick. Everyone knows it. Who'll believe you? The FBI will—" "You're bluffing." I texted one word to Noah. "Now." 20 seconds later, knocks rattled the door. Not violent, almost polite. FBI, we have a warrant. Mom's face crumbled. Dad sat down hard. But Lorna, she laughed. You called the FBI on your own family. No, they called me. You've been robbing people for 3 years. I'm just the only one who fought back. The door opened. Torres entered first, badge visible, followed by Noah and 4 other agents. Behind them, Iris Cole in a perfect navy suit, like she'd come for a business dinner. Lorna Vale, Torres announced. You're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and violation of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The cuffs clicked onto Lorna's wrists while she stared at me. Family doesn't do this to each other. You're right, I said. They don't. Noah turned to my parents. Martin Hart, Colleen Hart, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and filing false documents. Mom started crying. We were trying to help her. By stealing my house. It was for your own good. You're never here. You abandoned us for the military. I grew up. That's not abandonment. As they cuffed my father, he looked at me with such disappointment. You were supposed to be better than this. Better than what? Better than someone who won't let you rob them. Dennis Walsh was cuffed last, babbling about immunity, about cooperation. The agents led them out in a line, my family in handcuffs, paraded past the same neighbors who'd watched me grow up. Iris approached me. The civil suit papers will be filed Monday. Defamation, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're seeking full damages plus punitive awards. I don't want their money. No, but you want your house protected. This ensures they can never touch it again. The dining room was empty now, except for scattered fraud documents and the good china nobody would eat from. I picked up the fake psychiatric evaluation, the one calling me delusional. Ms. Hart. Torres stood in the doorway. You did good. Not many people would turn in their own family. They turned themselves in the moment they decided I was a mark instead of a daughter. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. The house is yours. Clean title. We'll make sure of it. I walked out of my childhood home for the last time. In the street, police cars pulled away with my parents and aunt inside. Neighbors gathered on porches, phones out, the Maple Glen gossip mill churning to life. Tomorrow the headlines would scream. The Hart family scandal would feed social media for weeks. Everyone would have opinions about the daughter who turned in her parents. But tonight, I drove back to Birchwater, to my cabin by the lake, to the place I'd bought with my own money, my own sweat, my own courage. The smart lock recognized me immediately. I was home, inside. I opened my laptop and deleted every photo of them, not out of anger, out of clarity. Some bridges, once burned, light the way forward. Stop pretending to be brave, they'd said. I'd never been pretending. The stadium tunnel reeked of concrete and damp grass, 10 degrees colder than the field above. The halftime show thundered overhead drums pounding through steel beams, crowd roar filtering down like distant thunder. I'd texted my parents and Lorna after the arrest. Meet me in the North Tunnel. We need to talk about the charges. They came, of course, even out on bail, even with FBI monitoring. They couldn't resist one more chance to break me. I stood in the tunnel's fluorescent wash, back against cold concrete. They approached from the field entrance, Mom's designer shoes clicking, Dad's breathing heavy, Lorna's smile intact despite the handcuff bruises on her wrists. Dropping the charges, Lorna asked. Finally seeing reason. No. Showing you something. Noah Bell stepped from the shadows, tablet in hand. Behind him, Torres and 2 uniformed officers. My family hadn't seen them in the tunnel's curve. What is this? Dad demanded. The end. I took Noah's tablet, turned the screen toward them. Whitestone Family Holdings, LLC. Your shell company, Lorna. Except it's been more than a shell, hasn't it? The screen showed transaction records. Dozens of properties, names, dates. Margaret Chin, 73, diagnosed with dementia. You stole her duplex. Thomas Rivera, Iraq veteran, struggling with depression. You took his mother's house while he was hospitalized. Sarah Kim, divorced, fighting custody battles. You convinced her signing over her condo would help her case. Mom stepped back. We didn't know about others. April 2023. I continued, scrolling. Email from you, Mom, to Lorna. Quote, the Chen property went smoothly. When do we receive our percentage? Dad's face went gray. That was different. June 2023. Dad to Lorna. The Rivera house is perfect for flipping. Our finder's fee should reflect the property value. You took percentages, I said. From every theft, every family destroyed, you got paid. Lorna's smile finally died. You can't prove the task force raided Black Dog Title's servers an hour ago. Torres interrupted. We have everything. Every email, every transaction, every victim. I pulled up another screen. 13 properties, 11 families destroyed, 4 million in stolen assets. And you were coming for mine next. We're your family, Mom shrieked, her voice echoing off tunnel walls. Family protects each other. You protected yourselves with other people's homes. Noah took back the tablet, pulled out actual papers. Amended charges, 23 counts of fraud, 16 counts of elder abuse. Conspiracy across state lines makes it federal. 20 years minimum, Torres added, each. The halftime show above reached crescendo trumpets blaring, crowd screaming, perfect cover for what came next. But here's the thing, I said, stepping closer to Lorna. I found your practice runs. Her face went white. 2019 through 2020. Before you got good at it. The houses you tried to steal but failed, the paperwork you fucked up, the notaries who wouldn't cooperate. 27 attempts before you succeeded with Margaret Chen. I pulled out my phone, showed them a recording. Lorna's voice, from a meeting she didn't know was taped, Eve's the test case. If we can take military property, federal contractors become viable targets. You were graduating to bigger thefts, I said, using me to prove you could steal from people with security clearances. Dad lunged forward. You ungrateful. Noah caught him, spun him against the tunnel wall. The cuffs went on fast. Martin Hart, you're under arrest for assault and violation of bail conditions. Mom started screaming about lawyers, about appeals. Torres cuffed her mid-sentence, but Lorna stood perfectly still, staring at me. You destroyed us. No, you destroyed yourselves. I just documented it. I moved close enough to smell her perfume over the tunnel's dampness. Stop pretending to be brave, you told me, but you're the one who's been pretending. Pretending theft was business. Pretending crime was family loyalty. Everything I did was for the family legacy. Your legacy is federal prison. The officers began moving them toward the exit. But I had one more thing. Lorna, the psychiatric evaluation you commissioned Dr. Morse flipped. He's testifying that you paid him to write false reports on 6 other victims. Her face finally cracked. Real fear bleeding through. The FBI's frozen all your accounts. Every property you stole is being returned. The victims are suing. You'll die broke and imprisoned. As they led her away, she turned back once. Family doesn't. We're not family. We never were. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't destroy each other for money. The tunnel swallowed them. My parents. My aunt. The criminals who'd worn familiar faces. Above, fireworks exploded for the homecoming court. The band played victory songs. 10,000 people cheered for tradition and belonging. I stood alone in the tunnel, cold concrete at my back, listening to celebration above. My phone buzzed. A notification from the county recorder. Property title alert. Birchwater Cabin. Clear title confirmed to Evelyn Hart. No more fake transfers. No more forged signatures. No more family claiming what I'd earned. I walked up the tunnel toward field level, each step echoing off walls that had heard everything. At the tunnel mouth, the stadium lights blazed, the crowd roared, and Maple Glen celebrated its homecoming. But I kept walking, past the field, past the stands, past the parking lot full of people who'd known me since birth and never really known me at all. My car waited in the darkness beyond the lights. I got in, started the engine, and drove toward Birchwater, toward my house, toward the life I'd built without them. Behind me, sirens wailed through the night, red and blue lights flashing against the stadium, marking the end of the Hart family crime ring. Stop pretending to be brave. I never was pretending. I was surviving. The tunnel exit opened onto the service road, away from the crowds. Detective Noah Bell stood by his unmarked car, processing evidence bags while Torres finished with the arrest transport. The stadium lights behind us painted everything in harsh shadows and brilliant edges. "Ms. Hart," Noah called out. "One more thing." He handed me a manila envelope. "The court's emergency injunction, effective immediately. All holds on your property are lifted." I opened it right there, under the halogen security lights. Official seals, judge's signature, timestamp 9:47 p.m. The Birchwater cabin was mine, free and clear. No family claims possible. "There's more." Torres approached, her suit somehow still perfect after the tunnel confrontation. "We've identified 17 victims total. Your evidence broke it wide open. Will they get their properties back? Every single one. Your documentation method's military precision made prosecution airtight." My phone buzzed. A notification from the banking app. "Title hold lifted. Birchwater cabin owner E. Hart, status clear, no liens, no claims." Behind us, the stadium erupted game over. Lakehurst victorious. Fireworks shot into the Ohio sky. Gold and maroon stars exploding over a town that would wake tomorrow to headlines about its most respected family being a criminal enterprise. I looked back once at the stadium, at the tunnel where they'd been dragged away in handcuffs, at the field where this all started with public humiliation 5 days ago. "No celebration," Noah asked. "This isn't victory. It's survival." Torres nodded. "The trial will be brutal. They'll try to destroy your character." "They already tried. Failed." I got in my car, drove through Maple Glen's celebrating streets. Every corner held a memory: the park where Dad taught me to ride a bike, the school where Mom volunteered, the restaurant where Lorna took me for my 18th birthday. All of it poisoned now, revealed as performance while they plotted their thefts. At Birchwater, my smart lock glowed green, welcoming, recognizing. Inside, everything stood as I'd left it that morning. My service medals on the mantel, supply chain management books on shelves, the life I'd built with my own hands, defended with my own spine. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, 13 emails from reporters, 27 Facebook messages from old classmates, 3 interview requests from true crime podcasts. Delete, delete, delete. Instead, I opened a new document and typed Lorna Vale, Martin Hart, and Colleen Hart were arraigned today on 43 federal charges related to property fraud, elder abuse, and racketeering. All 3 were remanded without bail due to flight risk. Trial is set for January. I posted it to my LinkedIn, my only social media. Professional, factual, done. Through my window, the lake reflected stars and distant fireworks. Other homecoming parties continued around the shore, but here, silence, peace, mine. My phone rang. Iris Cole. "The civil suit paperwork is ready. We're seeking $7 million in damages." "I don't want money." "Then what do you want?" I looked around my cabin, at the deed now clear in my name, at the life they'd tried to steal but couldn't. "I want them to know they failed. I want every one of their victims to know justice exists. I want the story public so no other family tries this con. That's all. That's everything." After hanging up, I walked to the dock. The October water was black glass, reflecting the last traces of homecoming fireworks. Somewhere across town, my parents and aunt sat in federal holding. Somewhere, their victims were learning they'd get their homes back. Somewhere, the story was already spreading: the daughter who recorded everything, who chose justice over blood. I pulled out my service notebook one last time, wrote a final entry. Mission complete. Hostile actors neutralized. Assets secured. Collateral damage acceptable. They wanted me to stop pretending to be brave. Truth is, bravery was never the act. Survival was. And I'm very good at survival. A text came through from Marcus. My cybersecurity friend. News just broke. You're trending. Woman exposes family crime ring at homecoming. You good. I typed back, I'm home. And I was not the home they'd defined that dinner table tribunal, that museum of conditional love, but this home, bought with combat pay, defended with documentation, kept with courage they said I was faking. The last firework burst over Maple Glen, a golden chrysanthemum that hung for a moment before dissolving into smoke and memory. I walked back inside, locked my door with the code only I knew, and for the first time in days, smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd refused to lose. They'd told me to stop pretending to be brave. Turns out, I was never pretending at all. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're hearing this. Are you driving to work, relaxing at home, or maybe taking a walk? Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your own stories of standing up to family betrayal or surviving manipulation mean everything. Let's connect and remind each other that real bravery isn't about pretending, it's about documenting everything and calling the FBI when necessary.